Vaush debate clips. Oh boy. Who isn't excited by the concept of Vaush debate clips? We. So Vaush collected, and I know High Progressive was editing this for a bit, a compilation, a 3-hour compilation of the best Vaush debate moments from 2022 to 2023. This is a pretty big compilation. This is a pretty large compilation, really. This is gigantic. But I wanted to watch at least some of it. Now I'm not gonna watch the whole thing, but I am gonna go through it and find the moments that are seem most interesting to me and watch them and just enjoy it. But I do want to throw this out there. Vaush obviously chose the best moments. So all the moments that would make him look, you know, maybe not smarter, but stupider, he decided not to do that and not keep that in there. So for these conversations, just understand that you're only seeing like a small 5-minute snippet. And some of them I might recognize and I might comment and it's like, oh, I remember this and da-da-da. But I just want to throw out there that in some of these conversations, it could be the case that if you watch the full talk, Vaush, this is not a good representation of the entirety of the conversation, because later Vaush messed up here. Just throwing that out there so you give some good faith to the people that Vaush are debating, that they are choosing this specifically. And if somebody's choosing the highlight reel, they're only going to show the best and brightest moments. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's watch.
Wait, hold on. You seem to have quite the fidelity for UN laws when it comes to your side of your argument, right? But the moment it's respecting, I don't know, any UN resolution when it comes to the state of Israel, you're like, oh, no, these are genociders.
Is this really your best argument? The UN, is this seriously your best argument?
No,
the UN said so 70 years ago. A Hamas rocket hit your head. The explosive payload was just enough to concuss you, but not enough to kill you. And that's why you hate them now.
Jesus.
No. So
okay, so outside of me agreeing with some things sometimes, but disagreeing with other things sometimes, what's the next banger you're going to throw at me? Did a Palestinian kid look extra menacing?
The state of Israel was tiny. The Arab League decided to gang up on Israel. We protected ourselves, and then what happened?
We protected you. Wait! Don't get arrogant. We protected you. Without American military adventurism, you guys would be a smoking crater.
That's
okay?
not true.
I don't know if we know that. Israel was supported in the 1947-1948 war largely by like weapons from Czechoslovakia, and I don't really know how much American weapons and American guns contributed to that victory. And the idea that if those guns weren't there, Israel just like wouldn't exist. I don't think we know that at all. It would probably might have been harder for them to win certain wars. But no, I don't believe this. I think this is just, I don't know. I think this is a very American centric viewpoint. It's true that we sell them a lot of the weapons we do, but there's a very, very good chance that if we weren't selling Israel weapons, they would have just bought Israel's weapons from elsewhere, which they have done, and they have their own weapons manufacturing complex as well. Again, I'm not saying that we didn't assist Israel in certain scenarios, like when Henry Kissinger upped the nuclear readiness level during the Yom Kippur War to dissuade Soviet involvement. But what I am saying is that concluding that without America, Israel would be just a smoking crater is American-centric and probably false. Lawn Shock, thank you for the primer. Appreciate it.
Yes. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yeah. You think
in the first war that Israel got help from the United States? This is not true. Second of all, the fact that we protected that land with our blood, right? Now the Palestinians cope and see because they're on the losing side.
With your blood. Wait. Who cares? Wait. The issue at hand here, they should have won. Like, you guys came in there and you immediately tried to genocide the existing population you're replacing. Israel is a cancer.
They declared war on us. They declared war on us. They initiated.
Oh yeah, they initiated.
When he says they immediately engage in genocide, is he talking about the land purchases, or is he talking about after October 7th in Gaza? Because I wouldn't say the land. You could definitely debate the morality of land purchases in Gaza, and then having the tenants moved off after buying the land from Ottoman landlords. You could debate the morality of stuff like that, but that isn't genocidal or a genocide. You could say that there were genocidal acts committed by Jewish militias, like the Jewish Defense League and stuff of that sort. But when he says genocide, I guess you'd be talking Nakba. So like at the start of 1947, 48. But that's not from the very beginning.
I know. It didn't begin with you displacing hundreds of thousands of them. You're such a fucking crybaby, dude. Oh, yeah. We enlisted the help of some of the most powerful imperial countries on the planet to justify our annexation of a territory and the displacement of an ethnic minority there. Hundreds of thousands of people forced to leave their homes. And then you cry that they're mad about it. And then you cry when using American guns.
Yeah, if you're talking the Nakba, that'd be 1947. I guess that's when Israel as a state was founded. But from the very beginning, that made me think like 1880s. In like 1905, 1907, when the beginning of the Zionist movement in Israel, when Israeli settlers bought up land.
Using American money, you then continue to defend yourself from all the neighboring countries that fucking hate you. You guys are fucking pathetic. No, you're pathetic. Your biggest enemy is Palestinian children with rocks, and you cry about it more than we did about 9/11.
I would say Iran is probably Israel's biggest enemy today, and Iran is the one funneling weapons to groups in Palestine, which are then doing attacks like October 7th. But I mean, their most direct, immediate threat is from groups in the Gaza Strip. Yeah, troops in the Gaza Strip and probably Hezbollah up north.
And genocide. And the moment the Israeli people do it, the moment the Jewish people do it, and they're not even
the moment the Israeli people do it, the genocide? Wait, did everyone else just hear it? Did everyone else just hear him say that? He's like, they were escaping genocide.
Honestly, and somebody just made this point in chat, and I think this is a good point, is that there's a better argument to say that without the British, without things like the Balfour Declaration and the Zionist movement wouldn't have been able to succeed, or that it would have been much more difficult for it to get the political or diplomatic foundations or groundwork for the movement to really get underway, get the funding necessary. Because it's not just like convincing people that Zionism is cool or like a good idea, right? You have to convince people that it's a good idea, that it's worth it to finance, that they'd be willing to go to an area, and along the way find out that many of the locals don't like them and still willing to go to that area after this idea of like a people without a land for a people for people without a land, which ended up not being true. Like there's just so many points and pressure against it, where the British did assist the Zionist movement along the way. I would say during the early stages, if you're talking about decimating the Zionist project, less British support, and when I say support, I mean things like the Balfour Declaration, or at least allowing them to operate. If there was less of that, I think that probably would have done a lot more destruction to the Zionist movement than the United States support for Israel, which became much more significant years after Israel was founded.
But the moment the Israelis do a genocide, everyone gets mad at us. Yeah, I just heard you say that. I may have been talking over you, but I heard it. Yeah, I will get mad at you when you do the Holocaust 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Hey, Vaush, are you LGBTQ? Are you LGBT? Did you know that Palestinians, they literally kill
That's
LGBTQ
crazy,
people
dude.
Right?
I do want to throw out there, right? Like, obviously Hamas treats LGBTQ plus Palestinians like garbage. But I do also want to throw out there that queer Palestinians blow up just like everybody else to Israeli bombs. That if you're in a home that gets leveled by the IDF, that like it's not like you got like a gay shield. And we don't really have any like evidence that the Israeli government is doing this operation at all motivated by those factors. Or that once they like take over the Gaza Strip, like one of their priorities is going to be the protection of LGBT people and make sure that whatever administration takes over elections. No, like Netanyahu couldn't care. He's part of the right wing Likud party. I don't understand the importance of bringing this up. Homophobia exists in Palestinian society. It's a real issue. It needs to be dealt with. It's violent. It's awful. But I don't think that IDF bombing is the solution, and I don't really think it's topical.
I agree. I agree. We should just nuke 2/3 of the world because they also don't support LGBT rights. Dude, all of your arguments are literally like fucking neoliberal like meme bait here. Do you seriously believe any of the shit you're saying, or are you genuinely stupid? I know this isn't your first rodeo because your ass is red because you keep.
By the way, I do want to be clear. It isn't. I'm not saying we shouldn't defend LGBTQ plus rights and we shouldn't defend them stringently on the international stage. I do think we should do that. I absolutely do. I just don't think that the Israeli operation in Gaza has anything at all to do with that, or is really going to have an impact whatsoever on the long-time health and like stability and lives of these people. Outside of like the immediate destructive effect, I don't think like the IDF is going to institute like massive protections for them. Like, I mean, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
Falling off the fucking bowl, you stupid piece of shit. How can you agree with one UN resolution but disagree with another UN resolution? How can you disagree with genocide when we do it?
Zionism, let's go, babies.
How can you disagree with genocide? The people who are genociding don't like gay people. How could dude? You guys' biggest enemy are fucking children with rocks, and you still cry more about it than we did about 9/11. Go piss yourself. Fuck off. Get this guy out of here.
I would very much.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, this one's about Ukraine, so we have to do this one. Was the Euromaidan revolution justified? Okay.
To take the state and get the technology to replace many of its functions like we've been doing.
This has nothing to do with what we were talking about. So you think you should never rise up against authoritarians? You think we should just sort of like, deal with it, be cuck boys? Cuck.
Look, the history of rising up against authoritarians, even authoritarians, leads to worse outcomes.
So you're okay. So you're a anti.
I mean, it depends on the situation. Not every single time does a revolution lead to great outcomes against a bad leader. An example of this would be like for example, the king in Cambodia was not dope. The government in Cambodia was not dope. The Khmer Rouge was much worse. Sometimes the revolution is just not it's just not able to succeed, and so it just becomes a bunch of violence, which I'm not going to say for nothing, but can feel like nothing once all the violence is gone. For example, if Assad takes over all of Syria and he's back in control, what were those 15 years of suffering and fighting for? 15 years, assuming it's like done in 3 years or whatever. It's been like 12 or 13. But at the end of the day, it's up to the people to decide if these prices are the prices they're willing to pay in order to overthrow the authoritarian regimes that rule over their lives. If one day there's a certain atrocity committed by the regime that's just too much, they might decide that enough's enough. This happened with the football protests in Syria. This happened with the regime murdering children in Syria. That's what kicked it all off in 2011, was the murdering and torturing of a young boy whose bloated body was then dumped afterwards. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. In Euromaidan, that was the brutalization of protesters and eventual murder of protesters by the special police forces, the Berkut, along with gangs hired by the government, hired by Yanukovych, which he had ties to, as he had often had ties to organized crime.
A statist, anti-statist. I see. So you're a libertarian, but don't you protest the government? Like, that's actually your position?
I'm opposed to violence, and I'm opposed to solving problems with violence. I think voting...
Well, some problems can only be solved by violence. If somebody invades your country and they're going in there and they're going to do all of that murdering that Russia did up near Bucha, it's kind of going to be hard to argue to most Ukrainians that the solution isn't fighting back or firing back. Or if the government is starting to try to pass laws to outlaw protesting, which Yanukovych was trying to do, and was murdering all these protesters, mowing them down, well, going back on campaign promises and trying to do it in the middle of the night, trying to be sneaky, working with organized crime to do it, at a certain point, there's got to be a line. Because if not, if you normalize that type of violence and you let the regime know that they can push you as far as possible with no response, because the people will not overthrow them, then they're going to abuse you to high hell and do everything they can to drain you of every penny, of every dime that you have, leave you penniless in a corrupt, kleptocratic system that benefits them and them alone. Especially if you're talking about someone like fucking Yanukovych. BevGeek, thank you so much for the primer. I appreciate the 8 months.
Is an adequate mechanism by getting in a democrat. Ukraine was democratic. All they had to do was have a freaking election. Okay?
Except, whoa, hold on now. Except Yanukovych was passing what were called the black laws, the anti-protest laws, so severe that it would have allowed him to arrest his opposition.
Except he already said that he would actually take them out, and that was his
he said, I'm sorry. Hey, I'm going to have my political party pass these 8 hyper-authoritarian anti-protest laws that would give me total control over the country. But don't worry, I'm only doing them for emergency power.
After murdering all these people.
You realize that Zelensky canceled like the elections in 2024 for that same reason, and the Constitution of Ukraine
Really, I
allows
wonder,
him to
is
do.
anything happening in Ukraine right now that makes it really difficult to run a functioning democracy?
So when he does
wait, no, answer. Wait, hold on. That wasn't rhetorical. Is there anything? Wait, I'm curious. I want to know because you're so knowledgeable.
Nuance for me, but
what's
not
happening?
for
Well, what's happening in Ukraine? That's crazy. Canceled elections? Well, hold on. Wait. Canceling elections is seriously bad. Countries don't normally do that unless they're like in active war, like being invaded or something. So what happened in Ukraine that?
What happened in Ukraine was that every peace agreement that could have happened was to.
Wait. What does this have to? Wait. You were talking about canceling elections. What? I'm sorry, what happened in Ukraine to lead to that? That's crazy.
There were 20 attempts at negotiated ceasefires and over 200 rounds of negotiation, all of which led to failure.
Crazy.
I'm telling you what happened.
So what happened in Ukraine that led to the cancellation of the elections? Did Zelensky say what it was? Did he mention that? Or was it just he was ambiguous? Did he just say because?
Are you going to say you're so simplistic? Oh, there's a war.
Just answer. Wait, what did he say? What did he say? You can't say it. You notice the I like how the first words out of your mouth were United States because you're a hack. You can't answer because you know you're lying.
This is the one you know, but I could say France.
So wait, answer the question. Wait, hold on. Wait, really quickly, okay? Because I don't want you to feel as though you can do this forever and get away with it. All right? I'm trying to do no, hold on. Wait. There's one correct answer. What happened in Ukraine to lead to the elections being canceled? Call ends if you get it wrong.
There is a war.
Oh, look at that. If it means you get to keep blathering to my audience, it seems you're capable of a succinct and correct answer. Maybe try those more in the future, and I'll
you'll what?
Get a couple answers out of you.
You'll let me speak, actually?
Vaush is the king of smug. I will say that. He is the king of smug.
Love that.
Oh, I didn't. Whoa, let's not go over.
Wait, no, him and Hunter Avalon, they're the kings of smug, I think.
Word here.
Okay.
Categorically, Luna did not call you a pedophile. She said, she quoted something that you said,
Wasn't
and
a quote.
I do happen to agree. I don't think there's any situation where an adult can have a sexual relationship with a child, and it has a positive outcome. So
if you had actually seen the full bit that was clipped from, then you would agree. You saw the full bit, not just the Twitter bit, but the full thing in which I was constructing a rule
foundation was that there can be some situations where an adult and a child can have a positive outcomes. You didn't say anyway. It's totally immaterial.
It's important. So in a consequentialist sense, you can easily construct a situation where essentially anything is fine. I'll ask you, just follow through with me 30 seconds.
No,
then we'll be done.
I'm not an idealist. I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals that don't have any bearing on material reality.
That is, wait, hold on. Hold on. First of all, we're not talking
hypothetical situations where adults can molest children and it has a positive outcome.
You're the one talking. Wait, hold on. First of all, Marx was a philosopher. It's not idealism. Wait, no, hold on. Wait, you can't move away from this. Okay, hold on. I'm not letting you paint me like this and then run the fuck away. Wait, hold on. Wait, you have to stop talking for 1 second. Okay, hold on. So imagine, all right, imagine aliens come down to Earth, and they say,
"This is absolutely ridiculous, Vaush."
You've lasted 6 seconds so
Imagine
far. Okay,
aliens. This is as hypothetical idealism as you can get. You're literally just like
you're like a honeymoon virgin. You gotta last longer than 6 seconds. Just give me a second, okay? Did I not let you talk for a long time when you were establishing your premises? Come on.
I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals with you.
You don't have to. Then you don't have to talk. You just have to listen. You just have to listen. Okay. Now, you can imagine a situation in which aliens come down to Earth and they say, we're going to blow up the whole planet unless you kill this innocent kid. Now, in a consequentialist sense, killing that innocent kid, right? I know, right? So follow through. So in a consequentialist,
you don't even need to. You don't even need to like make this crazy. You can just dumb it down to this. There's a base in northern Iraq. It's an ISIS base. One of their top commanders, Al-Shifa Fuckface, is there hanging around doing whatever he does. He's with like 20 of his top commanders. We have one opportunity to take this guy out here. He wants to do a major terror attack across Syria and Iraq, targeting major, I don't know, fucking Yazidi communities. Look, that they're located in the region. There is a child that they have there, his child, that's always with him everywhere he goes. Do you take the shot if you know they're going to do an attack in a week? Or do you not take the shot under the hopes that maybe you can do it when he doesn't have his child with him, which he always has with him? This is a scenario, which is a real scenario, that military planners and people who deal with the concept of quote unquote collateral damage, is the very cynic, the clinical word for this, deal with on sometimes a daily basis. So there's something that's not off in Alien in Space where you could talk about what Vaush is saying.
In a consequential, I know, an inability to grasp philosophy is one of my biggest issues with Luna. It makes sense that it would apply to both of you. That's not what this philosophy and idealism aren't the same thing. Those don't mean the same thing. You can Wikipedia them.
You're basing you're constructing hypothetical situations that have no bearing.
Hypotheticals aren't. Wait, do you think an idealism is when you construct a hypothetical? Do you think those mean the same thing? You're going to lecture me on dialectical materialism.
There's no point in having this discussion is my point.
Can you answer that question? Do you think idealism means when you construct a hypothetical? Have you read Capital? It's full of hypotheticals.
That has nothing to do with reality, and you think that gets you closer to the truth. That is idealism, because you are making the ideal conscious processes of thought your basis for truth.
Idealism is not when you
materialist, and my basis for finding truth.
I see the issue. You think idealism is when you think, which is why you don't. Listen, if you read Das Kapital, okay, you'll actually find hypotheticals. They're actually kind of ubiquitous. Look, anyway, and that's
grounded in reality, though. They're grounded in actual things that happen.
So just let's finish the point. We can move on if you let me talk for 10 seconds, okay? So in that situation, you could argue consequentially that the outcomes would be good to murder that innocent child because the earth doesn't get blown up. Then, because the Twitter bit cuts me off literally mid-sentence, you follow on from that point to talk about how a rule utilitarian could have a categorical opposition to the murder of children in spite of that. The whole argument was one against the predation of children. But far-right people like to clip me out of context because it's easier than debunking me. That's it. That was it.
Okay. All right. That is idealism, though.
That's not what idealism means.
I really want Vaush to when he keeps saying that, oh, this is impossible, we need billions of dollars. Look, there's all kinds of moderation that's currently used to ban all.
That was the guy I was talking about. That dude in the Iraqi center. There we go. We found him. By the way, the only reason I say that is this guy right here is, I don't know if you've seen him debate with modern day debates. This guy's insane. And when I say insane, he is a Muslim fundamentalist. He believes that gay people, once they've established a Muslim state across the world, they should be put to death once they've brought this into the law, that any horrible things or like disgracing of Muhammad that some comedian or something like that would do, that should come with the penalty of death as well. And this is stuff he wants to institute, and he's arguing for it, and he's going to public platform to argue for. So this guy is actually out there. He is really out there. You should watch his debate with Destiny. I watched it in person. It was very strange to watch.
Types of speech online, and Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, they have no problem with heavily moderating the content that is posted. And we're not even talking about videos. Anything that is put online that is objectionable, contrary to their TOS, gets taken down within minutes.
That's
this is something that is not difficult to do with technology, and especially with artificial intelligence. But you seem to have this kind of fallacy that it's either everything completely or it's nothing. Why can't there be Why can't there be a middle line? But you're denying that it's even possible.
Wait, where's the wait? No, I asked you where the line was, and you didn't give me one. If you want to give me a midline, if I think it's impossible, then correct me. Where would you draw the line of pornography?
No, when it comes to the technological ability to limit it, you're saying that it's impossible to technologically prevent all forms of pornography from the internet. Therefore, nothing can be done. But this is a fallacy. Okay, fine. Maybe 100% it can't be moderated. But what about 50%? What about 70%?
You could curtail it. You could curtail it, but I don't think you could keep it out of the hands of people who want to see it. I know that because
I'm telling you, man, you do whatever you want. I don't. If I gotta have like hard drives stored in the walls, you're not keeping me from my vidges. And there's a lot of people feel the same way, man. So good luck with that.
there are plenty of reports on countries that have banned pornography, like Iran, that's still like all the dudes there look at porn, like all the time. That's
fine. You can curtail it. That's the only point that.
One of my favorite scandals is the phone video of a Malaysian politician where porn is banned, watching porn in Congress on his tablet. Great stuff.
I'm making that you're conceding to.
But it doesn't change the outcome if they all can look at pornography anyway.
If you curtail it, you are reducing the amount of usage. Just like deplatforming. Do you think deplatforming works? Do you think deplatforming works?
That's terms of service, not about the First Amendment. I'm okay with Twitter banning people, not with the state arresting you for looking at titties. If Twitter wants to not show titties,
Twitter banning the extreme right, won't that just mean that the extreme right can find other ways to
wait, hold on. I'm trying to be civil, but you're actually okay. It is.
I'm not trying to trigger you. This is a simple example.
You are triggering me because I'm allergic to retards. Okay, hold on for a second.
There we go.
The idea that there is any parallel between the state criminalizing all forms of pornographic nudity across the entire internet in a world where the internet servers are hosted broadly, that has any bearing on Twitter TOS is insane. There is no comparison between these things. And I know, and by the way, I just want to point out, I said this at the beginning, okay? You don't actually care about the effects pornography has in society. You're religious.
I do.
Your opposition, your opposition is principle. If I could find a bunch of studies,
but it's also based on society and effects on society.
Let's bring it into 60 seconds.
It's principle first. If there were studies indicating, for example, that the presence of gay people doesn't detriment like society in any way, you would still be homophobic. And I've seen your site. I know you are. You're not evidence driven, which is why you abuse evidence when you attempt to use it. Porn is not porn.
This is a really good pegging of this guy, actually, from my watching of his conversations.
Is not harmful for the vast majority of people. Wait, what citations have you made here? Porn is not harmful for the vast majority of people who consume it. Plenty of people have harmful relationships with stuff that you see all around the world, like video games or food. We have studies on the effects these things have on the brain. Your argument earlier was essentially one that indicated we should just ban the entire internet. The way we form these relationships online, like parasocial relationship with streamers, these do contribute to loneliness. Do you want to ban streaming? Should we just ban the entire internet? Should we go back to eating nothing more than grain and vegetables? If you want to make the argument that the fruits of modernity can lead people towards unhealthy relationships with media and with products, I agree, but I don't think humans are children. I think that we're capable of making decisions for ourselves, and the data backs me, because prohibition don't work. It has never led to positive outcomes.
Go listen to Russell Brand. I don't know. Go on, please.
Russell Brand's a fascist. Why would I listen to him?
You're so funny. Go on, please.
This is just another testament to chat. If ever you see me contrasted against those who disagree, know that this is what I'm dealing with. Yeah, okay. So
Russell Brand is a I want to put that.
Yeah, he literally 2 days ago, he was promoting Ron DeSantis and his presidency.
He's a fascist because he promotes Ron DeSantis?
Well, actually, yes, I do actually think. You think he's a fascist because he promotes fascist president? Yes, actually, I think that's.
You've never promoted anyone like.
I don't know if I don't think I'd use the word fascist to describe Russell Brand. But I mean, like, the dude's like not the brightest bulb.
Hillary or someone who may be a warmonger?
What? What are you? No, stop! You did it again. No. Nice try. You're not distracting me again. Okay.
Ron DeSantis is pretty fascistic. I don't think I'd use the word fascist to describe Russell Brand if I was to describe his political ideology to someone who didn't know.
Move on, please.
All right. 2011, NATO leads Ukraine in the, quote, world's largest demilitarization project to destroy its own defensive stocks and capabilities. This is a big NATO L. Well, the stuff they were destroying was like old Soviet shit. But like,
nice.
Yeah, we should have given Ukraine more nukes.
Well, they didn't just destroy it. They also took some of it and gave it to the Russians. And then the Russians took those weapons that Ukraine gave them for the agreement that Russia would not infringe on its territorial integrity, and then use it to bomb Ukraine and infringe it on its territorial integrity.
All right. 2012, Yanukovych.
Wait, just pause for a second. NATO disarming Ukraine and ridding it of its defensive weapons as Yanukovych is trying to end the association with NATO. You don't see anything suspicious about that, and then presenting themselves as the protector. Nothing suspicious at all. This is just normal, right?
What do you?
I actually don't know what he's even hinting at.
Alliance.
Wait, what do you?
Is he hinting that we wanted them to get rid of their guns so they'd get invaded? I have no clue.
Wait, shh.
The reason why we made them give up these rockets and missiles and stuff, and the nuclear program was because they were a post-Soviet state. They were going through incredible economic trouble. Keeping one of these programs would be extremely difficult. And the United States nuclear philosophy is the less nuclear states, the better, because then there's less points of failure, which I also happen to agree with this in principle. So we negotiated for them to give it up and to give up many of the weapons to the Russians in return for territorial integrity, in return for us respecting their territorial integrity and the Russians, and saying that we would uphold their territorial integrity if their territory was ever infringed upon. So I don't think that was a bad deal if we kept up our end of the bargain. Problem is, when everything happened in 2014 and the interim government was talking to the Obama administration trying to get help, we basically said, oopsie doopsie, but we'll sanction them, don't worry. We won't do anything, but we'll sanction them. And this is why at the time in the 1990s, Ukrainian negotiators wanted a hard commitment. Instead, just got kind of like a soft, like verbal, like, yeah, sure. Well, not verbal. They had it in writing, a thing, but like, yeah, sure. We'll assist you with no like specifics about how, no defensive pact or something along those lines.
What are you talking about?
Remove the country's own defensive weapons and nukes, and then present yourself as the protector of
Ukraine was looking to get rid of these stocks, and NATO offered to help because NATO has specialists.
The difference is you think Yushchenko is Ukraine. I am the
What
state.
are you talking about? Do you have polling data on? Wait, do you have polling data on the people in Ukraine's opinions on the disarmament of old weapon stocks that were dangerous? So stop. No, you're doing it again. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. Your brain is mush. These were dangerous old munitions that weren't fit for use in combat. They were being destroyed because they were dangerous. You couldn't load these into a gun and just use them. They're rusted. They're unreliable. They asked for help. No, stop. They asked for help in order to destroy them because you can't just like throw them in the trash.
Well, part of the agreement was that if they were going to destroy a lot of these munitions or give them up, then of course the powers wanting them to do that were going to pay for it.
Who is they? Who specifically asked for help?
The leader of Ukraine.
That's the problem.
So again, no, stop. Again, you can't keep saying, yeah, isn't that fishy? Them having a government? Every country has a government. Every one of them.
For minutes. Can I just say something for 10 seconds?
No. Every time you say something, it's stupider than the last thing you said.
Stop.
You're literally like, isn't it suspicious how Ukraine has a system where their leaders make decisions? Hey, how about this? Hey, you want to hear? Wait, you want a real brain puzzler? Okay, aren't the people of Ukraine consenting to living under a governmental structure by voting for its leaders?
Yes, they are.
Oh, then aren't you arguing against what Ukrainian people want by arguing against what their state wants?
I'm not a revolutionary socialist. I want gradual changes.
You want no. You don't want anything. You have no actual beliefs. You're incoherent. Where is the harm? How? Because
is it immoral and wrong to masturbate? To what end? Wrong to what end? I mean, it's right to what I'm trying to achieve. When the deed is done. What do you mean, an immoral? What is the moral harm done? Genocide of the sperm. I'm sorry. Okay. What a silly debate topic. I guess unless the debate is quite literally, Bible said it's bad, then so it's bad. But it must be deeper than that. Probably some conversation about how like porn impacts people's view of women, and you know how excessive masturbation can be harmful, stuff like that.
You do need to convince me. Even on the NoFap forums, they're telling themselves stories about
what is NoFap for? What were they involved in? What were these guys involved in when they're watching pornography?
Jerking off, I imagine.
And that's immoral.
How is jerking off immoral?
Do you have any sense of what morality is? I mean, can you get?
If you did, then you would be able to answer me.
I will answer you. Okay, there's human sexuality is something that the human being has to regulate according to reason. Okay, he's not like according a salmon where electrical chemical reaction.
I like that. I like the idea of a biologist saying like, so why does the dolphin swim in this way? Well, it's according to reason, of course. I cite reason in the textbook. When we're talking about the stomachs of the cow, our source is reason.
Is something that the human being has to regulate according to reason. Okay, he's not like a salmon where electrical chemical reactions go off and he turns around and swims upstream. He has to subject human sexuality to reason. To rationality.
What reason?
Okay.
Well, the rationality is I want to jerk off, and then you jerk off. I think that's perfectly in line with the mechanisms, the faculties of reason given to me by God.
I know you do. I know you do, and that's why I say your mind is darkened. Of course you do.
Mind is darkened.
No, it's not rational.
Give the rational argument for the give the rational argument for the opposite. Why shouldn't I jerk off?
Okay, because human sexuality has an end. You probably don't know this, but it actually leads to procreation.
Okay, just because that's what the purpose of human reproduction is, that doesn't mean that trying to achieve another end by the same means is wrong. Like, for example, if I have a hammer and its original intention was to hammer in a nail, if I could also use that tool to accomplish another task that I need for construction, that doesn't mean I can't do it. Oh, is it wrong to do it that way? Oh, should I not do it because that's not what it was necessarily designed for? If it gets the job done, it gets the job done. It depends on what purpose you're trying to achieve. The purpose of jerking off is pleasure.
Creation of other human beings.
I can come multiple times. I'm not like done after one. Like next week, if I'm with like a girl, I'll still be able to. I'm not in any way impeding the process.
No, you are impeding the process because you're acting in a way that is contrary to the rationality of the sexual act. Sexual act is geared.
I'm imagining a couple going at it for the first time. They're like, you know, they're kind of fumbling, you know, they don't know what they're doing, you know, they're young lovers, and the girl starts to you know, touch him in a certain way, and he's like, bats her away. He's like, no, don't do that. Don't touch my taint. That goes against the rationality. That goes against the rationality of the sexual act. Oh, I had no idea. Oh, well, that turns me on, but now that I know it goes against the rationality of the sexual act, then I will not do that. Wouldn't that mean like things like fellatio go against the rationality of the sexual act? That it would just be missionary? Is that the only way to go? Or only sex acts that reproduce with children? What if you're a couple and you've had kids for 3 times and you're like, I'm done, I don't want to have any kids anymore, so I'm going to wear a condom? Well, wouldn't that go against the rationality of the sexual act? Seems very silly.
Burns is morally corrupt.
Hey, Crazy for Coke. Thank you so much for the primer and being sub for 2 months. Appreciate it.
Procreation. The sexual act is geared toward interaction with the opposite sex toward procreation. Okay,
why?
If procreation takes place, a child comes out of that union, and that child needs to be taken care of. So this has to, the rationality of the sexual act, first of all, explains what its goal is, namely the unity of man and woman leading to procreation.
Why is that the goal?
And then after
what if I just want to jerk off? Like you keep saying things are things
it's clear
because
that
they're
not
things.
only did you want to jerk off, but it's clear that that's the way you see sexuality.
If you jerk off, you can come without making a baby, and babies are really expensive and time consuming. So like, I feel like the ratio that like you should like 100 jerk offs to one babe. Even that's I think too low. But like again, you keep saying like things are bad because they're bad. Why? What's wrong with? What if you just want to spend your whole life jerking off? Like, what if a person's like, this is what I want?
You will frustrate the purpose of sexuality, and what you're doing is exactly the trap that your generation fell into.
You know, humans weren't born with clothes on them.
Just to be sure that there's no interruption, what I'm going to do is just to answer that question, we're going to give you 2 minutes to respond, Dr. Jones, and then we'll come back to you, Vaush, for 2 minutes as well. And we're just going to flip-flop.
We're really going to have to stop this constant interruption and
he can't deal well with pressure.
What I'm trying to say,
I don't think he can't deal with pressure because he's not good at, like, because he's just older, slow to respond. I think he can't deal with pressure because what he cares about is that sexuality has a function as in human nature, an evolutionary function, and that function is to produce more humans. And so he looks at it as that is the purpose. And so if it doesn't serve this end, then it is wrong. But other people, Vaush, me, and others included, have found out, maybe he hasn't yet, that it also is very pleasurable. And so maybe if we don't want children, but we want to meet the pleasurable end, which is still a goal that we want to achieve, then we can find alternative means. And that doesn't just mean jerking off. That could also mean sex with protection or sex without penetration. It could mean many, many things. Are all of these things now wrong? Because they're not towards the end is really the only just missionary. It's just such a silly position, especially if he recognizes that other people have a different purpose in sexual acts than just the production of other human beings, like a deeper emotional connection that could be built between two people outside of just the pleasure connection.
The end of sexuality is union with a member of the opposite sex, leading to procreation.
Oh, and I would assume by default then gay sex doesn't count. So, okay, well, this is really limiting my options here.
That's obvious from the act. That's what the act is. That's what the act does. You can pervert that act, okay? But then you're not acting rationally, and you're not going to end up with the end that the act has to achieve.
If we're following through, the purpose of hearing is to listen to people near you, so headphones are a corruption of that rational process. Your skin clothes you, so wearing clothes is a corruption of that. Well, hold on, Mr. Jones. Is a corruption of that natural process. I have no doubt at your ripe old age that you've benefited from some manner of medical technology, which is, again, a corruption of humans' natural process.
You're right. At your ripe old age. Oh, my God. So pointlessly sassy.
If we want to do this, if we want to go back to natural processes, I would be the young, strong hunter-gatherer, and you would be dead because you're twice my age. We both rely on deviations from humans' natural role in the civilization. You don't even have to deviate. I'm pretty sure there are animals other than humans who masturbate. So I just need to know, like, why? You always refer to some nebulous purpose. I'm not religious, though I seem to have read the Bible more than you. What...
Look, I know Vaush is purposely trying to piss him off, and he's trying to dominate in the debate. At a certain point, though, I do feel bad, like watching a schoolyard bully pick apart a small, defenseless chudlet, stuffing him in his locker for his dumb, very dumb beliefs.
Harm is done if you jerk off. If anything, it helps you because it lowers your risk of prostate cancer, and if you nut somebody later, you have fresh sperm. So I mean, aren't you, it's like clearing the gutters, right? I mean, it's just, where is the harm? I need to know.
Just clearing the gutters.
At the very beginning, an entire generation has been sidelined by masturbation and pornography because they can't relate to the opposite sex, and they are not getting married, they are not forming families, and they are not having.
Yeah, you know what it's like? You know what it's like going out to date women? You go out, you meet one, you're like, no, I don't know what to do. You're not my hand. You get out of here, man. Come on.
Children. There's the harm. And by the way,
I would say, like, for example, I think pornography can have a negative impact on how men and women view each other. And that has had a real negative impact on the relationship between the sexes. Not all pornography, but a lot of it is pretty toxic and can give a pretty negative image. And I do think a lot of people who are exploring their sexuality for the first time and are going through a lot of this content unfiltered, definitely if they're young and impressionable, could get a lot of bad impressions. So that's a real thing that could be discussed. But the idea that somebody like doing the dirty with his hand on a Fortnite or something is wrong because a child wasn't produced is silly.
Ear sets help your hearing. They don't inhibit your hearing.
Jerking off helps my dick and your prostate. That's medical science, by the way. People have been getting less prostate cancer lately because masturbation is getting more common. Probably because of porn. So, if anything, we're saving lives, really.
Saving lives.
So look, I've interviewed Chomsky. I've interviewed David Harvey just recently.
Back to NATO,
and a few other people. They all agree with what I'm saying. A lot of the Pope agrees with what I'm saying. Most of India, China, the global South.
The Pope is in favor of Russia invading Ukraine?
The Pope said that it was NATO's fault that Russia invaded.
Do you take as...
Did the Pope really say it was NATO's fault? Or did he say there was like blame on both sides or some like weird hippie stuff? What did he really said? Why did the war happen? NATO, obviously. This is all NATO's fault. I just doubt the Pope said that.
Advice on all issues, like vis-a-vis raping children. Do you think that he's a good like political and moral guide to all issues?
No, but when Tulsi Gabbard and Noam Chomsky and the Pope and hundreds of other leaders agree, and everyone agrees except the NATO countries.
Well, not Ukrainians. Sorry, I just listened to the people. You're listening to leaders like the Pope, and I think that's rather oligarchical of you. I'm listening to the good, honest proletariat over in Ukraine.
So let me ask you, what about the good, honest proletariat outside of the NATO bubble? Do you listen to them at all?
Ukraine isn't in NATO.
There are nation states outside of the NATO bubble that support Ukraine. For example, Japan, very big supporter of Ukraine. South Koreans, very big supporters of Ukraine. Japan actually has one of the highest percentage supports of Ukraine in the world. It's like 86 or 88 or like, I think it might be in the 90s actually the last time I checked. It was like, if I remember, I forget the exact number, but it's crazy high. But it's not just numbers in countries like that. I know Taiwan also supports Ukraine. When you go amongst the populations, the majority of countries around the world and their people support Ukraine, either on the UN stage or whether it talks to like saying, hey, I don't believe Russia should have invaded Ukraine. That was bad. Now, some of them might disagree about like how a peace deal should be done and how this and that. But at the end of the day, this feels like something that should be managed on the ground by the people who are going to be most directly impacted by a peace deal. While I do think it is an indicator of, you know, the morality of a struggle that the majority of people were against Russia invading Ukraine, the majority of nations voted against it, and the majority of the populations of the world didn't think it was good that they did that, I do also want to point out that at the end of the day, what somebody in Bangladesh thinks about the drawing line of the map when the war is over matters a lot less to me than what the person who is going to be trapped in occupied territory thinks of where that line's going to be drawn. That matters so much more to me. What does my opinion matter when it comes to Austin, Texas city policy if I don't live in Austin, Texas? Anyway, continuing.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you poll people in India, for example, the majority blame NATO before they blame Russia. The majority, and that's a billion people.
The UN vote, which condemned which was on the resolution to condemn Russia for the invasion of Ukraine, had a vast majority of countries side to condemn.
Yeah, I know this is your gimmick, but I'll tell you there was a more recent UN vote to condemn even more overwhelmingly the United States embargo on Cuba, and we don't give a shit.
If a guy in India...
You can't prove that.
Wait, what did that... That doesn't counter anything. All that shows is that the majority of people think our embargo of Cuba is stupid.
You can't use that to prove. Look,
if a guy in India said that he thought that
not a guy.
Muslims were subhuman... Wait, shut up. If a guy in India was like, I think Muslims are subhuman, do you think he'd be right to say that?
No, but the population, you need to deal with what the public
the population
believes.
of India doesn't have strong positive opinions on Muslims.
The public.
The public in India doesn't have. So do you think Islamophobia is good?
I just said the public always. The three words I said.
Stupid conversation,
the public
man.
always has people like yourself.
That's not 3 words.
Who can be easily.
So wait, answer. Wait.
Propaganda.
You're not answering. Wait, don't make me do the thing again.
Which thing? There's so many things.
Yeah, there are so many things, but they come back to repeating patterns, which we can identify and hopefully prevent in the future.
You don't criticize the
So hold
government
on, I want
enough.
an answer. Would an Indian person be correct if they were Islamophobic?
If by Islamophobic literally means afraid of Muslims, I mean, Muslims did kill them about 60 years ago.
Oh my God, dude.
They also killed Muslims. There was
Wow,
a civil
your
war.
brain is actual soup. You don't have like an overriding
I am
ideology
literally
besides
directly answering your
contrarianism.
question. You don't just don't
So,
like my
so wait,
answer.
hold on. So you think that bigotry against Muslims is okay because they're bigoted against Muslims? What's the
word "okay" is this first world thing.
Jesus
Dude, they
Christ?
literally
Oh man,
killed a
wait.
billion
Okay, we
people.
can. I guess we can like stop pretending to take this even remotely seriously.
This is you're saying that like the way to go is by being empirically correct.
Hey, what's this? Is this the hippy dippy round table? Who's that handsome fellow in Poland up there?
Correct. In using our correctness in order to narrativize this and push it upon people. And whether or not I don't even give a shit if you agree with the term. It's what's happening. There is a more progressive perspective on gender that is different than the perspective on gender and sex that existed 10 or 20 years ago. And regardless of whether or not you think it's correct, it is being hegemonically enforced through culture. Okay, this is just a descriptive. I'm not saying whether or not it's good or bad. I'm just saying that it's happening. Hold on. No.
What though?
I'm
that
talking.
trans
One
people
second.
exist? Well,
No,
I just want
Vaush,
to know what.
Vaush. Yeah. Okay. What I would say is that in order to be effective with your counter propaganda, rather than saying, fuck you, you're wrong, we're right, flying spaghetti monster, evangelical Christianity is fucking cringe, go eat a bag of dicks, you chud stupid fucks, I would say that exact attitude is responsible for fueling of reactionary tendencies on the right. And if you wanted to temper them and have them actually consider the humanity of their opponents, then you should appeal along liberal lines. And when you're talking about the Great Revolution,
liberals.
fuck no, I'm still fucking talking. Yeah, sure, okay. Then you should see yourself as a cohesive whole. Okay? You're the fucking progressive lunatic who's going to come on with a fucking hard goddamn perspective, and you're going to tell motherfuckers how it is, and here's all the empirical evidence, and anybody who doesn't like me is a fucking chud piece of shit. And then fucking conservatives are going to say, fuck you, you're wrong, God said a different fucking thing, you're a piece of shit and I hope you burn in hell and die. And then there's liberals or fucking centrists who have to try to get the two sides to fucking talk in a way in which we can live in the same society without fucking killing each other. What I don't like about your narrative fucking structure is I think that while it might be socially fucking necessary, if you were left to your own devices, you would literally create a society so fucking divided that literally it's going to start a shooting war. That's the fucking way I feel about leftists, and that's the way I feel about fucking chud fucking conservative dumb fucks.
Okay, can I respond to this? First of all, it's disgusting.
We got it.
I know
up because
it's disgusting of you.
Too long.
It's disgusting.
Okay, so this was a really long show. I barely remember it, but you can hear it in my voice. I do want to throw out there that while I do agree that there are certainly leftists that are so radical that if they did take over in this country, it would immediately start a shooting war, right? Like, obviously, if you give the weirdest people on Twitter power, there are going to be some pretty, freaky incidents in the United States. But I do want to throw out that just because somebody's positions are radical and them taking over would cause disturbances or could contribute to violence doesn't necessarily act as a counterbalance to the morality of their position. For example, some people would make the argument that Abraham Lincoln's election as a first Republican president, an anti-slavery candidate, contributed to the start of the Civil War by making the South more anxious and fearful of an impending crackdown on the practice of slavery. Does that mean that he was the wrong candidate? Does that mean that the cause was not righteous? No. All I'm saying is just because something is too radical for now, if it was to immediately be implemented, or if the people in question are radical to today's political spectrum, does not mean that it isn't the correct thing, or that it isn't that it isn't a good point or a good thing to do in society. For example, even though this is not the best example because I don't think it would start a shooting war, I think that the death penalty in the United States is awful. I think it kills tons of innocent people, and just by a matter of practice, we need to stop it immediately. But that's unpopular, and that's not the popular position. Anyway, continuing.
Disgusting of you to equate like the radicalism of people fighting for the right to exist and the radicalism of people fighting to deny others the right to exist. Like the chud fucks.
Do you think that most conservatives are trying to deny people's right to exist?
Hold on. You just said shooting war. Okay, so this is a war in your hypothetical between people defending the right to exist themselves and people trying to deny others their right to exist. This has happened before.
I think it's more going to be the communism that starts it, but yeah.
There's no communism in the US, okay? In the room with us, no. Connor, we've done this before in the 1980s where the Reagan admin allowed hundreds of thousands of gay people to die deliberately by telling the CDC to not do proper research. We've done this during the Civil Rights Movement where MLK died a martyr and reviled by the majority of Americans. We did this during the slave days. The idea that appealing to the humanity, like, oh, you know, the South, hey, maybe you should consider that black people are humans. What happened? Oh, the Civil War. Hey, what happened during the Civil Rights Act? Like, oh, we should consider black people are humans. That is good and it worked. But if you take a look at like percentages of people who like felt positively and progressively about black people, that shit skyrocketed after the Civil Rights Bill, not during the protests, because the arguments are less important than the social normalization. People with these positions, like anti-trans, don't arrive at them logically. It's through fear and disgust, and you can't rationalize people out of those reliably. Sometimes you can. It's not impossible, and I try to on my platform, but you can't do it consistently. And what you need to do politically is understand that these phony deferences to liberal civility are nothing more than a weapon that the right uses to silence and weaken progressive groups. They have been wrong every time. Every time.
So will you just admit that you're pushing your agenda then?
No.
Yes. But in the wait,
don't even.
There you fucking go.
Wait, hold on. Wait, Connor.
Whatever you were going to say at this point, I just don't care.
Every
and I don't think anyone else does.
Pushes.
And I don't care anymore.
Wait, me or him?
I don't care. Everyone. We're moving on to the next topic.
Are we
doing going on way too long?
I don't want to cut you off, but I would argue.
Does anybody think I wasn't feeling it with Hippy Dippy anymore? Anybody got any of that feeling? Anybody got that feeling? God, man, I was just not enjoying it anymore. I was not enjoying it. It was hard to manage my filming because I was super tired from filming in Poland all day. And then I was doing the Hippy Dippy at night. It was hell on earth to schedule. But then also, like, it was harder than ever to book people. People were flaking out like crazy. We were still doing the bonus show as well. You know, the recruitment show. And I was just not feeling it with the guests. I was not feeling it with the topics. And we didn't have any like really new up and coming participants or like any new blood for the show. And so it just felt like I was bringing on the same people over and over and over again to talk about a lot of times relatively the same topics. At the start, you know, when everything was new and, you know, the political community in the debatosphere was more flourishing on Twitch, it was different. But now it's, you know, when we relaunch it, we're going to try to integrate it a lot more with YouTube. And when I say relaunch it, I mean, we're going to test out a show this Friday. We're going to see how it goes. And then we're going to think about future shows we could do and new ideas to keep it interesting. And we'll try it. And I'm thinking about trying it once a month instead of once a week to make it so that the shows that we do are interesting topics. It stays fresh. And it's easier to organize. And that means we can concentrate on getting all the best guests for one show.
That this is just the beginning of...
Okay, let's skip this one. I don't want to do this one. What do we Michael Tracy? Yeah, let's check out Michael Tracy. Why not?
The U.S. is just interested in enhancing and expanding its military economic hegemony.
That's all countries ever do.
Whatever virtue flows from that is just incidental.
Yeah. I've been fully forthcoming about that. Yes,
well,
absolutely.
That underscores then that we've all been massively deceived because almost
This is how countries work, Michael. Michael.
Why the U.S. must be involved in Ukraine? It's always in these moral terms about defending democracy and so forth.
Yes. Welcome to the world. Yes.
The real rationale.
I do think ideology plays a role. I think that Vaush and Michael are too cynical. I do think that states are largely motivated by self-interest, obviously, but I do think ideology plays a role, and I think the ideology is also connected to self-interest. Because the United States does believe, and I think they have good reason to believe, that liberal-style democracies tend to be more stable, tend to have higher living standards, and tend to, when managed properly, produce better living outcomes.
The U.S. government is
intervening. People moralize politics. Welcome to birth. Welcome to the outside of the cervix in which you were told.
Of course, this is not saying that there's no problem with liberal style democracy. This is, of course, I'm talking about relative to other models of government that are existing on the planet, like oligarchic dictatorship, for example.
The U.S. is intervening in the conflict.
Or monarchy.
Well,
in terms of how government officials are presenting it.
Okay. I don't understand how to respond to the realization you're having now that
realization.
The media will moralize geopolitical behavior from countries.
I'm far from, you've posited this existence of like moral goodness in terms of the virtue of the Ukraine, militarily prevailing. It just happens to align in this particular circumstance with the United States, which in every other circumstance.
Well, that's a lot of times how countries do good things. It's not always just, wow, it's such a good cause. We're going to go halfway across the world to fight in this war that has nothing to do with us in any way possible. A lot of times it's more, hey, this aligns with our interests. And also, it's a really popular thing to do because this guy's going out of line and he's dangerous for the region. For example, like the war in Kuwait. It was good for the region. It was good for the stability of international markets. Everybody in the world was basically in favor of it. When it comes to like the governments involved, and if the ones that weren't in favor of it, they didn't openly object to it. They abstained. I mean, like, was that within America's interest? Was that within the interest of all these people? Yes. Was it also the right thing to do to remove Saddam Hussein from Kuwait? Probably, yeah. He was going there to loot oil. So, I mean, yeah, a lot of times when nation states end up doing the good things in their history, for example, like winning World War II, it isn't always just because of the morality in their heart. It's also self-interest. There were also self-interest reasons for the United States to get involved in World War II. And to, for example, sanction the Japanese or embargo the Japanese. And to send aid to the Soviet Union and the United Kingdom. But does that not mean that it was also the morally correct thing to do? It was both. And I think supporting Ukraine is of a similar style. It's, I think, both within the United States' interest, clearly, keeping stability in Europe, its main export market, the second largest reserve currency in the world is the euro, upholding our commitments and our credibility. If the Russians were to prevail and conquer Ukraine after all the commitments we've made, all the way going back to the 90s with the Budapest Memorandum, it would not only be a hurt to American credibility, it would be a damage to NATO and European credibility, which could have a spiral effect. It will be damaging for denuclearization efforts, as the lesson taken away is if you ever give up your nukes, your sovereignty is under threat. And it's going to be, I don't know how you're going to convince anyone to give up their nukes or to pursue denuclearization or complete denuclearization. If that's your goal with invasions like this happening and their deals that they made in order to give up their nukes, like the Budapest Memorandum, isn't upheld by the United States. There's a bunch of self-interested reasons for us to do it, and I think that the Ukrainians have a right to rule themselves, that the Russian system that they're trying to impose on the Ukrainians is horrible, god-awful, as we've seen the damage is done in occupied territory, and I think the Ukrainians are engaged in a morally righteous struggle. You can believe both things at the same time.
Is motivated by raw expansion of power.
No, in every circumstance, they're motivated by that. If that's the actual
motivation, then it has Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and everybody else who's been hectoring the public as to why this interventionist policy is so necessary. Have they all been misleading us? Because they put it almost universally in fully moralizing terms. Is there moralizing just false? Is it deception?
What you're talking about right now, and again, moving away from the point as you are so wont to do, what you're talking about right now is the literal concept of politics, a lie engaged in equally by people regardless of political affiliation. I don't know why you're asking me to defend this. You might as well be asking me to defend the rain. I have no idea why. Like, you, like for instance, like, wait, Michael, can you please? We only talk so often. Stop wasting both of our times with this. Like, do you think it's dishonest of politicians to give the people reasons why they're doing things that aren't the reasons they really believe?
Specific question. I asked you a much more specific question
Michael,
than that. I'm asking you if the
that is directly what you asked me.
I'm talking about parents dragging their kids to drag shows without their consent when they don't want to go and look at women or men, whatever you want to call it, drag queens, dancing in a sexualized manner. That's where I have an issue with. Not just walking down the street or CVS and seeing the androgynous cashier. I don't think that has the same effect.
He's going to be on the Friday show, by the way. For those of you who missed Alex Stein's influence in the world.
Drag is gender nonconformity on a stage.
I think he is. Let me double check.
Stage with presumably bright colors. That tends to be involved. The sexual stuff you're adding is optional. The tipping is optional. The kids being there is optional. The sexual dancing is optional. Drag fundamentally is only gender nonconformity as a presentation. So when you talk about, so the reason I'm trying to isolate the variables here is because.
Yep. Yeah, he's going to be there. And yep. Okay. Well, expect him.
Your argument that it is sexual confusion inducing and thus tantamount to molestation for a kid to get confused about the sex of the person they're looking at, that can happen anywhere. It's not a drag specific thing. And since drag is nothing more than flamboyant gender nonconformity, you're essentially just attacking the most ostentatious example of what you think the real issue is, which is any
the real issue
behavior.
Is drag shows.
The issue is I'm going to let you watch him debate. I got to use the bathroom. Enjoy the Alex Stein content. I'll steal Vaush's content. I'll loot it like a pirate. I'll be right back.
This is drag shows. Not seeing androgynous people at the grocery store.
You said it was molestation.
To go to a drag show where they did not choose, and to see people that sashay on a dance floor, and for them to tip them like as if they were at a strip club, that's where I have a problem. I don't care if they're at the grocery store and they see an androgynous person. That does not have the same effect.
Why not? So let's say, hold on.
Because it's not done in a sexual manner. It's not done without their choice.
Let me put you in my shoes, okay? If we could, okay? There I am, a strapping young lad of 10. I'm quite tall, back at that age, big lad. And I'm going to the grocery store with my mom, of course. I'm not going there on my own. And I see a person there. I see them from behind, all right? They're wearing yoga pants and a crop top t-shirt that exposes maybe 4 or 5 inches of their stomach. And from behind, they're very hot. They have long, straight black hair, very attractive. Now, I'm a strapping young kid of 10, all right? I'm very attracted to this fat ass that I'm looking at. But later, it turns out, as this person turns around in a situation that I did not consent to be in, I did not want to go grocery shopping. This is a guy. They were just a guy, just a feminine guy wearing, all this. Now, in that moment, I did experience, because I didn't realize I liked the men at the time yet, I did experience a kind of, as I realized, like, I was into this person who I thought was a woman.
Bam! Vaush, that's my whole entire point, is that realization that you had was a little confusing. Would you agree that it was a little confusing?
So you would agree this isn't about drag. It's about
it is about drag. I think it's the drag
in the world.
No, you just did. Drag is where they're exposed to it. I'm just saying that is where they're more likely to have that sexual confusion. It's more likely to happen at a drag show that their parents drag them to that has a sexual connotation than just going to CVS or going to Ralph's.
The logical extension of your argument would apply.
I'm not talking about logical extensions. I'm talking.
I know you're not,
drag
Alex.
shows.
I'm
talking about drag shows.
I know we don't want to talk about logic here. We just want to talk about drag shows.
Earn my fucking vote.
Again, stop with the fairy time bullshit. If all of these people somehow magically coordinated, listen, over here in reality, if some of these people all magically coordinated, if some of these people all magically coordinated, and they all decided on a single wedge issue, if they all decided on a single wedge issue to shift their vote on one wedge issue to another candidate who would have to be developed and organized and funded and promoted entirely on this wedge issue, they would then have to have more people voting for them than the entire unified Republican Party. Ergo, what you're talking about has never happened, cannot happen. You are talking about fantasy bullshit. You're not happy with how tedious reality is. You are not brave for throwing up your arms in the air. You are not brave for throwing your arms up in the air, ignoring reality, and only saying you'll lift a finger off or lift your ass off the seat if some implausibly, impractical, historically like unprecedented shit happens. No political analyst would ever say would happen, but you're like, only for this will I, fucking politics king, get out of my seat and do shit. You're not special. And no, you are. You're special in a class sense. You're more privileged than the people liable to suffer. If this country goes under, I can leave. I'm rich. But there are millions of people in this country who not only don't have that privilege, but they work tirelessly to put the effort in where you think there's no point. Your day for work is not at the election booth. Your day for work is 4 years before.
For a politician to have to earn the vote of a voter. That's not unprecedented. That's literally politics
whining
101.
that you're not being catered to. You have it better than 90% of the people on this planet.
Who drew this? This is beautiful. I'm gonna get this framed. I'm gonna get this framed, and I'm gonna send it to my grandfather. See how it goes.
Talk about me personally being catered to. We're talking about the huge block of people who oppose the genocide going on in the Gaza Strip and to be heard.
And they're doing they're doing work, and their lives will not get any easier if they just don't participate.
If those politicians have to spin on that issue to change on that issue in order to secure those votes.
You're just speaking for them. You're privileged. You're privileged and arrogant, and you're angry, and you're using them as a shield. You're using them as a shield.
So of course these people would have a huger incentive than ever to
You're
want to
hiding
win.
behind them. The math doesn't change. The math doesn't change for you or for me.
Democrats
for nobody.
Can't win unless people who are against the genocide still vote for them.
Want the world to get better, you do the work between the elections, and during the election you make the best choice, and then you get your ass back to work. You, like me, spend a lot of our time whining online. That's our jobs. But the difference between you and me is that I don't think I'm special for my abstemiousness.
Yo, thanks for the sub, buddy. I appreciate it. Very nice of you. Thank you.
From the process that other people have lived and died and bled for, trying to build a world comfortable enough that we could be dipshits in a computer chair. You can do the work. You have to do the work. You do not have a right to complain and pretend that you are smarter for keeping your hands off the work.
And said, announced that apparently...
I largely agree with him on this. Oh, they're back on Ukraine. Man, Ukraine is a lot of this, man. Ukraine is a lot of this.
Ukraine has been admitted to NATO as a, quote, de facto member, he said. Now, that wasn't elaborated on. I don't know what that actually entails in terms of security guarantees or what have you.
It guarantees nothing as security guarantees. It basically means that they're going to have NATO, Ukraine join NATO eventually. The idea being once the war is over that they'll have Ukraine eventually join NATO.
Oh, so he was just lying, or he was just making stuff up.
He just said so.
No, another difference between you and I is like when government officials like charge of military
you realize de facto.
I actually take it seriously and scrutinize it and try to evaluate it.
Michael, first of all, first of all, de facto NATO doesn't mean anything. It's a treaty. It's an article you have to join.
I would love him to elaborate. I would love someone to elaborate. Joe Biden, Jens Stoltenberg, anybody.
It's not complicated. If you followed any of this stuff, it'd be pretty self-evident.
Second of all, Michael, maybe you have encyclopedic knowledge that I can only aspire to.
Michael, I can see the tactics. I can see the tactics shifting with you. One quick question, Michael. Do you sleep with men?
Sorry?
What?
Do you sleep with men?
Do I sleep with men?
I do. You can't out-snark me. Stop trying.
Are you interested in sexual activity now? How would that even be a pertinent question?
Mikhail, quit being a snarky cunt. It's not going to work with me.
Or not, by the way, so I'm not sure why you brought that up, but okay, go ahead.
Because you're outmatched. You're doing this like, well, now that it's been an hour and you've been called out for being a worm 50 times, you're doing this like, well, I just remember.
When Vaush says he sleeps with men, what does he mean by that? What does he mean by that? I don't want to gatekeep at all, but when he says man, does he mean like what does he mean by a man? All right, because I don't know what his type of man is. I have no clue.
Remember this one thing.
Like there's a big gulf between Link and Ganondorf. That's all I'm saying.
This one guy said, and maybe you could explain to me.
An image of you sleeping with men in my head, which is not something I had been eager to, think about.
I didn't hear what you were saying. Anyway,
I think your tactic might have been to plant the image in my head of you sleeping with men, because that was not something I was eager to think about.
Did it enter your head that easily? That's all it took? I had 3 more lineups before I figured there wasn't even a chance of that being in there. You can think about that if you want. You've been paying about that much attention to the conversation anyway. Fact of the matter is, as much as you want to run from it, as much as you want to cry about it, appeasement is not a historically effective strategy. It just isn't. It just genuinely doesn't seem to work. Countries that make up a bunch of shit as a pretext for invasion and then invade generally don't stop once they get one W.
Well, Vaush, yes, people are forced to do something.
Well, that's not consensual.
Well, I'm sorry, but you can't do literally nothing.
Well, why not?
Because you'd starve to death.
What? Why?
Because you're not collecting berries. You're not doing anything.
There are other people collecting berries.
Okay. And?
Professional moocher.
So there are enough berries.
Not necessarily.
There are in the world today.
What if they do nothing too?
Well, what if nobody did anything?
Yeah, that's you are approaching that extreme. That's what you're saying when somebody choosing to make a little extra money is compelled to, or is you compare it to
a little extra money. Not working in the U.S. means a life of desperation and poverty. It's not a superficial choice.
People choose a quantity of work.
People, no. Again, this is sort of like the I don't think you've interacted with reality thing. People are working multiple minimum wage gig jobs just in order to make rent, and they're making it with like 60% of their salary. The idea that people are choosing between a lifestyle of base comfort and cosmopolitan wealth based on how much they're willing to work is just not true. People are struggling to get by. The vast majority of people can't even afford a small emergency of a couple $100s. In the wealthiest
bullshit,
country,
and you know it, Vaush.
That's not bullshit. It's literally true. You can Google how many Americans can afford a $400 emergency.
Those stats you see on the internet, they are designed by marketing firms more than anything in order to give people a false impression.
Are you denying reality on this?
Most people have more than $400.
Oh my god, I don't want to watch this anymore. This is boring. Michael Tracy!
Sir.
So who are among those others? Barack Obama. So Leo, what was the alternative?
This has already been answered. Michael, you're going in circles. You're delusional. You're insane.
I'm actually just trying to apply a modicum of
You're
logic
gaslighting yourself. You're mad.
No, I'm not gaslighting you.
You're like a broken record.
Random buzzwords.
You need a therapist in here. All this has been answered. So do you agree? So wait, maybe I can get a yes no from you. This will be powerful stuff if I can. Do you agree that Putin annexed Crimea? Did that happen?
Do I agree that Putin annexed Crimea? Yeah, of course. Putin seized Crimea and incorporated into the Russian Federation.
Okay. And at the time, please, we're so close. At the time, did Putin indicate like that's enough? Like this is what I'm answering. In 2014, he wasn't saying.
By the way, before he even finishes with this, in 2008, after invading Georgia, Putin tried to indicate, quote unquote, that was enough by saying there was no ethnic issues in Crimea and not to worry about the Ukraine issue. After invading Georgia, to indicate, don't worry, this is as far as I'll go.
Like, yeah, I'm going to take the rest of Ukraine too. Like he was just saying, I've annexed Crimea because the people here are ethnically more aligned with Russia, and like I'm taking this territory. So at the time, that was perceived to be enough. It was framed as being enough for him.
That was perceived to be enough. Perceived by who? I mean, what are you talking about?
Michael, oh my God. Michael,
did Putin himself indicate
messaging
that Crimea was quote, enough for him? Is that what you're asking me?
His messaging in 2014 was, I've annexed Crimea and I'm done. This
Well, no,
territory.
because there was a military operation, which was one of these very much smaller scale military operations in eastern Ukraine. After
He
that.
denied.
So, no,
he denied.
He didn't say that.
Wait. At the time, he was denying that those were his people. He was pretending that that was an authentic, internally Ukrainian.
That was one of the many times that governments engage in deception when they're in war posture.
So publicly, he was like, yeah, those people in the Donbass are totally independent separatists. And also, I annexed Crimea, but no more, right?
Well, I actually have to double check this because, again, I'm going to acknowledge if I'm not 100% certain of my recollection. But I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually fascinated on who watches you on a regular basis. I mean, you're an interesting guy, but I watch somebody regularly and they just always interrupted within like 30 seconds. I would find it a bit maddening. So
I'm interrupting. Okay, you're not getting my goat on that one, Mr. Talks-A-Lot.
Like you've screamed Michael, I don't know, probably like 60 times over the course of
trust me, like it was for your benefit.
So silly. It's so silly to pretend these women are being godly. Give me a break.
Oh, Hake. Who doesn't like Hake? Should we do Hake quick? Let's see. I don't want to do too much. Man, there's a lot of Michael Tracy in here. Sure. We'll go a little bit more. We'll go a few more. We'll do a little bit more.
Well, if you make the choice to take care of kids when you know it's going to be very difficult as a single mother, I would say that's a fairly noble thing to do. Wouldn't you say?
So noble. They're getting subsidized like crazy, subsidized by the father and the government.
Yes, single mothers are just resplendent with wealth, Hick. That is how it works.
They're spoiled.
That's why women are lining up to be single mothers these days. It's definitely something they actively fight for and not something that happens to them against their will.
Happens to them. Yeah.
Well,
they're these poor innocent victims. Why are you being such a simp about this stuff?
Well, this is the thing, and this is why I think it's funny that you pretend to be Christian. It's that you're decidedly less Christ-like than some of the more degenerate atheists that I've known in my day. It's not just that you don't, you don't feel love. Well, hold on. You don't feel love for others, so you reject God's love and you assign that rejection to others, which is weird enough on its own. But you look at virtue and you call it sin. What are you but anti-Christ-like in doing so? Women who sacrifice portions of their lives to take care of kids, knowing the odds are stacked against them. You look at them and sneer because you hold hate in your heart.
With them.
You are someone who would be a better beneficiary of Reverend Jesse's teachings than almost any man I've ever spoken to. It's so obvious the way you deride those you speak of. I could never in my conversations have I spoken of any group who's for what? For raising children with this level of derision?
You just falsely accuse men of abandoning the children.
Many men do so.
They can't deal with the women, and they can't deal with the hell of dealing with the woman and fighting with the woman over the children.
I respect the men who do take care of the children, but
anyway, I was not
disrespect the women who take care of the children.
No, but there's nothing to respect there because they're not taking care of the children. Well, fine, but it's nothing to respect there. That's different from what love is. You don't have love when you're falsely worshiping these women as godly and stuff like that.
I think it is Christ-like.
I know you're just being silly.
No, I'm not being silly at all. It is Christ-like.
You have no clue what Christ even was about.
Don't get upset like a woman would.
But you have no clue what Christ is about.
I think I'm actually a little bit more familiar with Christian doctrine than you, it seems.
Damn!
Considering the stuff that you've said about...
Hey, we got a hype train close. Look at that. Thank you, Poggy84, for the tier 1. I'm about to blow. Thank you for being sub for 17 months. And Dr. Xbalba, thank you for the 100 bits. Merry Christmas after. Thank you very much. Hey, if you guys want to donate and sub, now would be the time. We got a hype train. And also at DylanBurns.tv, if you donate and sub, all the money goes to the channel. None of it goes to Jeff Bezos. Just saying. Just saying. Great place to sub. Poggy84 redeemed Tell a Story. Oh my god, Tell a Story. Tell a story. Tell a story. Oof, man, I wish I had a story on hand. Let me think. Can't think of one right now. I owe you a story.
About love in this conversation is concerning. You know, it's interesting. Your statement that love should not have to do with a marriage that like people like marry for sex and you hope the love develops of it. This is actually something closer to what I would expect like a cynic, like Satanist type to say. Somebody who would like sneer at the institution of marriage and go, you know, there's no love in that. Someone who rejects God's love. But you claim to champion it while making fun of women who take care of their children. It's, well, you know the Antichrist who will sell you every good thing is bad and bad thing is good, right? Are you an agent of his?
No. I'm making fun more of your false worship.
Show me your hand,
females.
the back of your right hand, would you? Do you have the mark? I want to know. You're laughing at women who take care of their children.
There are two states the FBI. There are two states the FBI can exist in.
Okay, let's not do this one. Let's skip. Let's see how many more do we. Okay, one more, Michael Tracy. One more.
Michael, in a battle between Russia and Ukraine, which Russia started, I don't believe it's escalated.
Can I just say that Vaush, here's your story, by the way. Vaush talks like this everywhere. Everywhere, all the time. This is just his cadence. He's always sounds like he's being very precise and particular about his words, as he always talks like that. Always. And I remember him speaking that way as he went orb shopping in Kansas. I saw him buy many orbs. No, it was Tennessee. We were in Tennessee, I think. Yeah, we were in Tennessee, I think.
Escalation to allow Ukraine to defend itself. It's the same war with the same target. Russia just wanted an easy win, which they couldn't secure. Right. Secondly, I think that beating Russia back now is better for reducing the likelihood of nuclear...
What? He bought a bunch of wooden orbs to display in his home.
War. It is, of course, Russia that's threatening to end the world with nuclear war, not Ukraine and not the United States. Russia is the one that constantly threatens nuclear Armageddon all the time, and I don't think that we should appease them just because they happen to be a nuclear state.
Why? Because it was bad to appease Neville Chamberlain, right?
Well, appease...
Here we go. Bam! Here's his orbs. Orbs. Orbs, orbs, orbs.
Appeasement doesn't have a great track record historically because they tend to keep doing the same things after you give them what they first
That's a very novel
claim.
historical analogy. I hadn't thought of that one. I have to research it later.
Michael, you're not in a position to be snarky. Historically, it's true. Appeasement does tend to not stop dictators.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It would have been a horrible idea to, like, quote unquote, appease Saddam Hussein instead of, launching an invasion in 2003.
Do you have wait? That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. We weren't even talking about appeasing Saddam Hussein.
I mean, we didn't appease Saddam. When he invaded Kuwait, we kicked his ass and he went back to Iraq. Well, how would he have appeased us when it comes to weapons of mass destruction? There were no weapons of mass destruction. I mean, he wanted there to be some belief that there might be. Part of the reason why the inspectors were getting so much trouble. It was very fucking stupid of him to do that. Even if he was trying to, like, puff up Iraq's image. Thought it could act as a deterrent. Didn't end up working out. We didn't appease Saddam in Kuwait, and it worked. But, like, there was no weapons of mass destruction to give, so he couldn't have fulfilled the demands we made of him.
Anybody who was against the invasion of Iraq in 2003 was denounced as an appeaser. So I'm just wondering what,
Michael,
principle, I'm not saying there's the same situations, but
Michael, engage with what I've said rather than this what about
there really isn't any.
Michael, you're falling lower than the comic book again. Talk about what I've said rather than pulling it back 20 years.
France, whatever you want. That's not whataboutism, but I bring up something that happened in 2003 rather than 1944.
It is true that this has nothing to do with that because Saddam Hussein wasn't a nuclear power and wasn't threatening to nuke. Michael, you're doing it again. You're trying to waste our time by pulling the topic away because you're slimy. Michael,
doing that again.
Quit running. I talked about.
Oh, I'm seated. I'm seated. I'm happy and I'm entertained.
Michael, your hairline is already running. There's no reason to join it, okay? Listen,
you got me.
Is threatening the nuclear war. Michael, Putin is threatening the nuclear war. I do not think that they are very rational when it comes to their nuclear threats. I do not think that giving them the W and allowing them to take over Ukraine or part of it would do very well to deter the country from further nuclear threats. I think the best thing we can do is get rid of the actual thing that's instigating the nuclear threat, which is Putin. Putin's governance is the reason why Russia is a nuclear threat. And the best way to take care of Putin is to make him so domestically unpopular that he's replaced by another oligarch, ideally one who doesn't constantly threaten to end the world.
So you'd be happy to just continue what has been the policy now for 8 months, and just continue escalating in hopes that, I don't know, Putin is vaporized and then everybody can declare victory.
I don't think we're escalating, but I do support continuing to support Ukraine.
No, if nobody's escalated anything, I mean, how did we get to the point where Joe Biden's declaring that we're on the precipice of nuclear Armageddon? Is it just a coincidence?
Because Russia is escalating. They're the ones escalating the nuclear
precipice.
threat.
And are they escalating because of any reason having to do with the United States?
Because they're losing
or
the war they started.
Or is the United States involvement in the war just coincidental and has nothing to do with their escalatory threats?
Yeah, something tells me that a nation that's willing to threaten World War III and nuclear Armageddon because they're not getting their way in an unjustified fascist annexation of a neighbor is not a country that we can be relying on to stop that behavior after we've given them what they want.
Sure, but with everything else I said building up to this about who's funding it.
Okay, what else we got here? Let's go through this stuff quick because we got too many things here. Him and Big Papa Fascist debated. Kevin 3 PhD Ukraine debate. What's this one?
There were disagreements between Belarus and Russia that actually exceeded and were far more.
Honestly, we've listened to a lot of these Ukraine debates. Do we really need more of it? Let's see. What else do we got? Anything interesting? Don't know who Luke Bleasley is. A Serbian nationalist. I kind of want to check out a Serbian nationalist. That sounds actually kind of fun. Oh, he's got a lot of Serbian nationalists here. Serbian nationalist? Okay. Let's check out the Serbian nationalist.
This just because he doesn't say ethnic cleansing.
Wait, I asked you if they called it ethnic cleansing. You pointed to examples of violence. I know they've done violence. You can control F the article, by the way. The only term ethnic cleansing is used here is when in reference to what the Serbs did. So again, not ethnic cleansing.
Okay, just because somebody does not use the word ethnic cleansing,
I asked you if they use the term. No.
Let me finish.
No, you used it. No. You can't. Just admit that you were wrong to say the KLA was engaging in ethnic cleansing.
No, because okay. Let me say why. Right. So just because it doesn't say the term ethnic cleansing, but the term described there fits the definition of the ethnic cleansing would label as
it does not fit the definition of ethnic cleansing.
Well, okay, so you think that the widespread and systemic burning and looting of homes belonging to the Serbian and other minorities, not ethnic cleansing, and destruction of Orthodox churches and the monasteries, combined with the harassment and intimidation designed to force the people from their homes and the communities. That's not ethnic cleansing, according to you. But when the Serbs killed two families, that's ethnic cleansing. You're obviously
Wait, I'm sorry, what was that last sentence you just said right there?
There were some villages in Kosovo where the KLA did force Serbians from their homes. It wasn't on like a very widespread scale, largely because they didn't have the power to do it. And I mean, in comparison, it's like it wasn't like very widespread violence, and the crackdown that the government followed afterwards was more brutal. But yeah, there was some. It absolutely was.
When the Serbs
combined with the harassment and intimidation designed to force the people from their homes and the communities.
Compared to when the Serbs do what? What did the Serbs do?
Compared to the Serbs kill a few families at the beginning before the war.
Kill a few families at the beginning.
Yes, exactly.
Do you understand how dishonest and partisan you are?
This is before the war. I specifically the timeline.
Not before the war.
Before the bombing. My bad.
No. Stop.
I mean, even before the war, if we're talking about before the war, I mean, the Serbian government was cracking down on local rule, like super hard, trying to like govern the state directly, trying to control local authority. And I mean, the Albanians were in large part fighting because they were fearful of discrimination from the Serbians. But I mean, again, fuck the Serbians. Just, fuck them.
Listen, this is a desperate effort on your part to equivocate when you are the oppressor here. You say, I even give you an out. I say, did the Human Rights Watch call it ethnic cleansing? And you say yes.
Serbian nationalism is crazy as fuck, though. It is pretty hardcore.
Confidently, and then you bluster out of it when it turns out they don't. It's fine. I misremember things all the time. But you are so desperate to compare. I don't know if you understand. Over half the population of Kosovo was displaced from their territory. You are not big enough dogs to engage in this kind of delusional denial. Russia does stuff like this, and they're not strong enough to get away with it. I'm an American. You want nationalism? I can lie about whatever I want, but I don't have to, because in addition to being part of the strongest country in the world, I'm also right on this one. I haven't misrepresented anything in this conversation. Nothing is more pathetic than nationalism from countries that are hamstringing themselves in the global market because they can't put aside how much they hate ethnic groups that would constitute 0.25% of the population of the United States if every single one of them was to emigrate here. It's pathetic. You're not strong enough to be this proud. You realize this, right? Your people, the Serbian people, are starving. They are impoverished because they lock themselves out of market because they're still seething over the fact that Albanian Kosovo has gotten independence. And for what? Like, what are you gaining through this? Like, what? Like, holding on to this, like, you're, like, how old are you? You're not older than I am. I know that. You were probably barely even alive back when the KLA was still active. So what? Did your parents tell you this? Where did it come from? What incentivizes you to engage in this pithy, myopic nationalism when all it does is cripple you in your country?
There. If Russia were to have fomented a revolution or a coup to have a
oh no, I listened to Clint Russell before. Clint Russell isn't worth listening to, and honestly, I just don't even want to hear it again. I remember watching it the first time. He was fucking stupid. I don't want to listen to it again. Martinez, libertarian Zionist, top Yankee tanky. Skip this one. Fuck the pagan debate. Continue the Serbian nationalist debate? No, let's see what else we got. Not deep fat fried. We've watched that recently. Let's see. Yankee tanky. Let's go. Let's do a trip down memory lane.
It was politics. This is how politics works. At the end of the day,
I'm talking about politics.
Were ripped from power. They were not unified within the Bolshevik Party. They were kicked out of politics entirely. In some cases, actually imprisoned.
What are you talking about? I'm only saying that both Mao and Lenin allied with
they temporarily allied with people that were part of one segment of the ruling class to force the other side of the ruling class out of power.
Yes. And then now why did Mao choose the PRC to fight with over Imperial Japan, and why did Lenin choose the liberal reformists over the Black Hundreds?
People under the Red Revolution.
What?
Because the Japanese imperialists were slaughtering the people that were under the banner of the Red Revolution.
Okay, so great.
So I would assume, maybe I'm giving Mao too much credit. I would assume Mao would also be against the Japanese slaughtering non-communists. Or people not under their banner, which at the start of the Japanese invasion, which was not nearly, it was not even close to the whole country.
So the Imperial Japanese were worse than the PRC during the occupation of Manchuria. Or sorry, not the PRC, the ROC, the Republic of China.
For a temporary alliance to defeat them.
Okay, I agree. So maybe bourgeois democracy or liberal democracy exists as a kind of tool that socialists can use and exploit in order to achieve real socialism, whereas systems like dictatorship and fascism are harder for socialists to exploit.
The difference between Japanese imperialism...
I mean, like, in a liberal democracy, the liberal democratic freedoms that you were permitted widely, not in all cases, there are exceptions, but widely do give you more ability to organize and operate your organizations. That doesn't mean your organizations won't be infiltrated. That doesn't mean your organizations won't be monitored to some extent. When I say monitored, it doesn't mean tapped every building, but that they won't have some eye on you or you on some list if you're going to get into very radical organizing. But yeah, you are given more freedoms to organize as a socialist in the United States than if you were to genuinely get involved in labor organizing in unions in China, independent of the government, or in, for example, Russia. Imagine if, for example, in Russia right now, there was a big labor strike anywhere tied to, I mean, just in the country generally, but imagine if it was tied to the war effort in any way. Could you imagine? Do you think the government would be quick to negotiate, or do you think the government would be quick to crack down? Latin American Argentine President Milei lays over 5,000 government workers. Oh boy, here we go.
And say American imperialism is that Japan was not in the position to extract the wealth of the global south, the South and Far East. However, the United States imperialists are in that position. They are the main enemy in our time period.
The main
First of all,
enemy.
that has nothing to do with what I was talking about. Second of all, Japan was literally creating the Southeast Asian prosperity sphere. They were literally creating an imperial empire at the time. They were worse than us. They slaughtered millions. America has exploitative trade deals these days.
Millions. How many? We did the banana wars.
Okay, are you going? Wait, please tell me. Please tell me that America today.
The wars in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Vietnam.
He's going through the list. I actually think, I genuinely think, if you went over like all those wars,
all the governments
he's not stopping.
In Central America.
A good context and like a good example of what you're trying to.
Okay, sure. So let's take a topic of yours that you may be less familiar with. Okay.
Should leftists support nation states like Ukraine in defensive wars?
Let's say there's a war. All right. And she's out in town having a great time. Okay. And then somebody tries to rape her. Not good. I assume we're on this together. Okay. So the woman not wanting to be raped hits the rapist. This is good, right?
Good. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
She could have stabbed the rapist. Better.
Are you comparing rape to an invasion of a country? Because you do realize
because
a state rape is different than conflicts between people.
You're right. The difference is the Russian army rapes many people. We're only talking about one rape here, so this is way less. Okay.
I don't doubt that, but then again, there was that one Ukrainian lady that got fired for not finding any Russian rapes a few months ago.
I have no clue what you're talking about. Do you dig through evidence to find defense of nothing? We're not getting off point. Okay. So
no, I'm just
it's okay. I know. I'm sure you spent a lot of time researching exonerations of claims of war crimes against the Russian military.
I just
Jesus Christ. What else we got? Martinez, I don't know who that is. Oh, more Yankee Tanky.
You're trying to tell me that the US imperialists are actually better than the Japanese imperialists, or better than
absolute. Oh my God, are you fucking kidding me? Yes. Like on what timetable? Today's timetable? Like today? Not even a question. Oh my God. But you thought the Battle of Baghdad was bad on America? Can you imagine? Fucking every child be on a look. I don't even want to get into it, but look. The Japanese were fucking crazy in China, okay? Not even a question. I would even say by those standards of the time, if you would compare the United States then and in Japan then. But by today's standards, absolutely.
Almost any other imperialist other than maybe the British?
Okay, hold on. Real quick, even if you added all of those together, yeah. I do think that America is a hell of a lot better than the Imperial Japanese. I know you don't think that because America bad is your only ideology, but
with a logical position because you're a national chauvinist that supports the United States no matter what.
Are you a pro rape of Nanking? Out of curiosity,
I don't know what that is.
Holy shit! Wow. Jesus. Yeah. Chat, where do I go? Where do I go next? No, I know. Me too. How's your day going?
It really is surprising he didn't know that at the time. He really didn't know what the rape of Nanking was, while also making judgments about whether American imperialism or Japanese imperialism, which one was worse. Which, of course, is always difficult to compare one to the other. But, I mean, I don't know how you could at all claim to have any authority on the topic or to reject any assessment on the topic if you don't even know what the fucking rape of Nanking was. It'd be like, yeah, I mean, I think American imperialism wasn't that bad. Slave a what? I'm not familiar. The Atlantic slave, huh? The Atlantic slave, who? If somebody responded that way, then I don't think you should take them as an authority on, American history.
So why do you support Ukraine? Why do you actually support Ukraine?
I could answer, but you're not gonna like it. You're gonna have some weird.
I want you to answer so I can knock it down. So go ahead and answer.
Oh, okay.
Knock it down.
Because the people of Ukraine don't want to be invaded by Russia. That's why. That's at the end of the day, that's the only reason.
Region, 14,000 of them wanted to be slaughtered by the Azov battalion and other Nazi.
I said he's gonna have a weird.
Okay, so I just throwing this out there. The 14,000 number, it's a total war dead, which that means that number includes Azov dead that have been killed by Russian soldiers, civilians killed by Russian soldiers. That includes everyone. So he is including in Azov's death toll, Azov's own soldiers dying, and civilians killed by the Russian army. So it's just the entirety of the death toll from 8 years of semi-frozen combat in the Donbass.
Like, what the f does this have to do with not wanting them to get invaded? Like, it's like totally tangential. So again, the reason I support them is because they don't want to be invaded by Russia.
By the way, I'll just throw out there, none of those people would have died in the first place if the Russians didn't invade. Just throwing that out there, just throwing that.
No weird Azov analogy can, no parallel can take away from that.
The People's Donbass Republics. Why?
When we're talking about from puberty blockers to cross-sex hormones, so that they don't ever develop the ability.
Well, they do, because
okay. I don't want to do trans. Let's keep going. Let's see what more Yankee Danky. Absolutely.
Dude.
You're trying to explain why we should support U.S. imperialism.
No, I just said that I support Ukraine in this war because they don't want to be invaded by Russia.
Because they are a puppet of the U.S. government. They have been a puppet of the U.S. government since 2014.
Sure.
They have not been a puppet. If they were a puppet of the U.S. government, it doesn't make sense that the protesters went against what American politicians wanted them to do, and instead of making a deal, they continued to protest until Yanukovych was driven out. But no, they're not a puppet government. They do things that is contrary to what the United States wants them to do. For example, when they did the counteroffensive, along 3 points. They did the counteroffensive in Bakhmut, they did it towards Berdyansk, and they did the counteroffensive towards Mariupol. The United States government didn't agree with this. They thought it was bad. And remember, the Ukrainians are using American gear to do it. And so we have some sway in the matter. And we wanted them to take all their forces or collect their offensive potential and concentrate on one point and punch through. The Ukrainians had other reasons for not doing so. They wanted to divert troops to other areas. They had other reasons. But ultimately, they did it their way because they're their own country and they got the final say. That doesn't mean that what they decide won't be impacted by our advice or by whatever we would want them to consider. But they made their decision on their own. If they were just a puppet, then we would not be allowing them to be making such large and important security decisions like that against what the United States is advising them to do.
Yes, sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Maybe we should. Okay, let's try a new tactic. Okay. I support Ukraine because I'm an American chauvinist and I want America to conquer the world. I believe America's true socialism. The founding fathers, with their constitution, enshrined socialism into the law of the land. And I think that you're a fascist, and I think that you're a revisionist. And yeah, we're going to do global American socialism.
Oh, I'm the revisionist.
Unironically, yes. You're actually the most revisionist human in existence. There's nobody more revisionist than you.
Hey, now Vaush is getting involved in Trumpisms.
It doesn't exist. That's first off, okay?
Wait, what did you just say?
Yeah, revisionism is not a thing. Material conditions change, therefore your ideology should change based on
this man, his whole family and his entire town would have been shot in fucking Stalinist Russia, dude. Holy shit. It would not have been enough for them to have gotten you, man. They would have fucking nuked your home village. Jesus Christ. Oh god.
You actually are supporting U.S. imperialism.
Yeah, I know. NPC dialogue line reset. It's like ending a convo with a Skyrim NPC and then restarting it, and you get the same opening line from them.
You gave the example. One of your arguments against the biological definition of woman was that we didn't know about chromosomes many years ago.
Okay, I don't want to watch more trans debates. Back to Yankee Tanky, absolutely.
Like you.
A bit of a difference, but fundamentally very similar.
Like, you are so coping right now. The United States is experiencing a massive decline. You know, the material conditions, we have roads that are being reclaimed all across this country, turning back into dirt roads. We have...
What is he talking about?
Yeah,
what the fuck is he talking about?
It's called environmentalism.
Like San Angelo, Texas, that, you know, last year, you know, where the water supply was poisoned. We have, you know, Flint, Michigan that still doesn't have clean water. We have highways that are falling apart. We have rail systems
bourgeois
that are decaying.
Highways.
You're talking about all of these systems, right? Or rather, I'm talking about all these systems.
By the way, some of these problems I do think are endemic of congressional gridlock. And the failure to act on certain issues, even though, of course, there are gigantic policy differences in like how they want to deal with issues like infrastructure decline. Many of the issues he's talking about have always been issues within the United States. I think a lot of this is just kind of rose-tinted goggles of looking towards the past.
That are collapsing.
Like when he talks about some areas of the country aren't getting clean water. I'm sorry to say, in the United States, there's never been a period where every American has had access to clean water.
Right in front of our eyes, right?
And that's not like a haha, you've been corrected, so that's good. That's a sad fact. It's true. But some areas, of course, due to mismanagement, have been areas that had clean water and then became areas that didn't. Flint, Michigan was one of them. Now they have, since for a while, fixed that issue.
Right now, and you actually think, well, China is out there building high-speed rail, while Russia is advancing their oil production, while you know, you have countries like
Russian oil's doing great right now.
We have.
Man, I can't believe, you know, what's the great new move Russia's doing to advance in the world, guys? You ain't gonna believe it. They're mining for oil. Oh my God, Russia's doing some great new strategies, great new divestment, so they aren't just viewed like a giant gas station. Come on. What am I supposed to say? That means nothing. Like, there are things that Russia's actually doing legitimate investment in that it's like, you know, good things for the country long term, like investment into the Arctic and certain other things that makes sense strategically, that makes sense economically. He's not making the case. He just said, hey, you know that thing Russia's done forever? They're doing more of it. Oh, okay, got you.
The United States collapsing, and you think that the United States is on top. That's insane.
Yeah.
You are absolutely insane.
We don't have money for infrastructure because we're spending all of it on socialism.
We don't have money because we're spending on the military-industrial complex.
The socialist... the military-industrial complex owned by the government? Socialism.
The f did you even say?
The military-industrial complex. It's controlled by the DoD, the largest employer in the United States, a.k.a. state-owned enterprise, a.k.a. socialism.
Socialism is not just state enterprise. That's
yes, it
state
is.
Capitalism.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. Also, you're a revisionist.
into the future, they can absolutely protest. And my point was that
no, these laws would have denied them the ability to protest, and they were already gunning down protesters.
They gunned down. They did engage, and I have to look at this. Hold on, this Wikipedia that I'm just...
So wait. I thought we were leftists in favor of like the people's rights here. Do they not have a right to like rise up against this?
Yeah, they do. Absolutely. I'm talking about.
Okay, I'm just giving this back the Yankee Tanky. Woo.
Shut up. I hung up.
You think that countries like China and Russia that are working together to develop fusion energy, you really seriously think that they're the ones that are declining, and it's not the United States that doesn't even have proper clean water?
It's funny.
I like his classification of America versus China. Like Russia is doing oil, and China like doing big now, and America no clean water. How you think America? Like it's all just like caricature based off of like just cherry picked news stories. I'd be like, they say, you think China can do good? You think China's economy is doing well? Have you seen the quality of their homes? They crumble. A lot of these homes, they crumble. They're not made well. Have you seen the housing bubble? You think China's doing well? If I just cherry pick and only show negative indicators, then yeah. Of course, that's going to be the painter you pick, the picture you've painted. But he didn't even take the proper time to paint the picture. He just brought up one location that had a water filtration scandal 5 years ago.
It's funny how you would say,
not even 5 years ago. It's been more. It was like 8-9 years ago now.
It's funny how you would say the collapse of the United States is bad for America when the dissolution of the state is a prerequisite for communism. Look who's the communist now.
The positions of the United States and working people is getting worse for this country. I don't want working people in this country to suffer. I want a government that actually represents working people and not multinational corporations. The very exact thing that you say that you support because you're supposedly some sort of socialist.
No,
right?
We need the multinational corporations to take the wealth back that's been extracted from the West.
Say it again?
We need the multinational corporations to take back the wealth that's been taken from the West by countries like Nicaragua and Guam.
Oh yeah, it's the so
Nigeria.
You're saying we should have imperialism, right? To supposedly build back the labor aristocracy in the country.
Do you know how many dollars worth of bombs we gave to Laos for free?
I absolutely agree. The United States shouldn't be giving bombs to anyone. That's one of the reasons why I'm against Joe Biden selling weapons to Saudi Arabia to bomb the Yemenis people, right? And that's part of the reason I'm glad that Saudi Arabia is now moving in the direction to be part of BRICS, so they are no longer part of this U.S. imperialist system.
What? I'm sorry. You're asking me what the wage rate is in the Kmart?
Yeah, what are workers paid?
Okay, one last one. Yankee Tanky.
The Communist and Socialist Party of America was at its height, right? No, it was at its height during the 1930s and 1940s, coming out of the Great Depression.
The largest party in the United States today is a communist party.
When the labor aristocracy is weak, that is when the United States has strong class tendencies within the country.
If you think class consciousness is at an all-time low in the U.S., then how did Biden win with record high votes in 2020?
Are you seriously suggesting that Joe Biden was a vote of class consciousness?
Are you suggesting he wasn't?
Damn.
Yes, absolutely I am. That is not a class conscious vote. People voted for Joe Biden because they were sick of Donald Trump. That was it.
The vote for Joe Biden was a victory for the working class over the liberal reactionaries who supported Donald Trump. We're only China and India capable of following in our footsteps. If Russia could, they wouldn't be in the quagmire they're in right now, as the glorious socialist vanguard of Ukraine pushes back their weak and inept invasion attempts. As our socialist HIMARS rain down thermokinetic bombs on your ammo depots.
Damn.
Yeah, let's be very clear. Ukraine banned socialist and communist parties. How could they possibly be a glorious vanguard of a country that are literally banning and killing communists?
They're not killing anyone.
What do you mean killing communists? When they say banning communist parties, now the parties that they did ban that were like communist parties of Ukraine, they were holdovers from the Soviet Union, and they were pretty Russophilic, to be quite frank, and unbelievably conservative. They did lean more towards preserving certain social programs and pensions, but they weren't really pursuing communism. They engaged in the same type of corrupt politics as everyone else.
Any communists?
Yeah, they are.
No, they're not.
They've killed communists. They've killed Roma people. They've killed Russians. They've dared to kill Ukrainian citizens.
I mean, kill Roma people. When they say there's like a Roma person has been killed in the fighting, or like they've gone out and murdered Roma people specifically.
That just happen to be more on the side of Russia than Ukraine.
No, they haven't.
They've slaughtered so many freaking people. Yes, they have.
No, and Ukraine has not killed a single person.
Well, not kill a single person, but when he said slaughter, I don't know who he's talking about, what groups he's talking. He's just throwing like people have died, have been killed.
Okay, clearly
all Russian casualties have been due to friendly fire, such as the ineptitude of the fake socialist, bourgeois capitalist state of Russia. The oligarchs have not trained their men well.
Character of you right now, which is pretty fucking funny, because you're not having an intellectually honest conversation with me right now. What you're doing is.
Did it really take him that long to realize this shit, man? God, man, he's something.
Of creating the most sarcastic points that you don't actually even believe in the first place to try to argue against my position at this point. That's all you're doing.
I'm just trying to match the tone. It's something autistic people do when they're in mixed company. I'm just trying to match the level of retardation present in this conversation so that we can communicate on the same level.
That clearly what you're saying right now, that's not ableist at all.
Ableism isn't real. Socialism requires a frank, candid, and scientific understanding of the distinction between retards and non-retards, exemplified by this conversation, determined largely by whether a person agrees with me or not.
Can you just admit that you've lost this debate?
How could I lose? I'm American.
Yankee won this debate. The Red Phoenix is rising. We have defeated Vaush. This character can't bring an argument against us. It is clear to me that the Yankee Tanky has won. We are victorious!
Good for him.
Comrades!
He looks so happy. And he left. What fantastic debate performances. We all truly feel more enriched for having listened to these enduring conversations of political wit. Wouldn't you all agree? Wouldn't you all agree?